Welcome, everyone. Welcome back. It is October 22nd, and it's a thrill to be back with my friends and Niken family. I don't know about you, but I'm still kind of on a buzz from the event. It seems to have had quite an impression, made a lasting impression. There's still people posting photos and so forth that they are sharing with us on Facebook and Instagram. Which is great because there's pictures there that I never got a chance to see. And hopefully by now, many of you have received your access link to the Dropbox that contains the full account of photos that we were able to take, as well a highlights reel from the event, which I really like with a theme song behind it. And that was, by the way, that was what was hoped for when I asked for that last little thing. That was supposed to be the last little thing that happened. Instead, we had to go with the PowerPoint instead of the actual video reel because there just wasn't enough time to put it together. But live and learn. And let's see, there's another piece in there. The Bob Proctor, someone was kind enough to send me the audio. I think it was Roberto's sister or Roberto, one of the two from here in Toronto, who managed to capture 99% of Bob's presentation. So that's also an audio file that I would suggest that you review often, not just once, but the whole purpose of this Aligning with Success call was to get us on that channel, to get us onto the same frequency as what Bob was talking about in his presentation of how we create things. We're very busy often studying practical matters, or things that we refer to as practical matters, the do's and don'ts. And in all the years that I've ever done this business and all the studying that I've done, I was so bent out of shape on getting the hows, the do's and don'ts down right, to the point where I wrote the first system called Winning Strategies to Create Your Futures. Then I wrote the second system called the U-Cube system. And then I wrote the third one, which you guys have not really had access to because it was kind of put shelved, but it's a pretty intense one online, which is in the Wellness Network, and it's all about the wellness track. And essentially it was the how-to about everything to build the business in terms of looking at it like a franchise. And while I do appreciate the need for that and why we have tools and we refer to resources and so forth, especially this one that's getting started, when we're getting somebody started in the business, we want to make sure that we're giving them the how-tos that are finite, not open-ended, but finite, so that there's a real simple, practical way of getting people going in the business. And but at the end of it all, my conclusion was that even the best system in the world is useless in the hands of someone who will not apply it. And so what are the factors preventing people from actually taking even a half mediocre system and applying it, let alone a great system? What is it that was preventing people from really excelling in our business, or for that matter in life, or for that matter in business in general? And I found that the work that Bob does to help shift paradigms, and what he was emphasizing was that our life and the quality of our life is a reflection of our paradigms. And that, of course, all leads back to the same thing, the law of attraction or the law of assumption, whatever you want to call it. But we're living our lives, and we are governed by laws that we may or may not be aware of that are having a direct impact on the results in our life and how we interpret those results. And I say that very candidly because a lot of people feel like they're a victim of something when they do not feel like, well, first of all, when they are not aware of the laws, or when they're not aware that they're in fact invoking those laws, whether they're doing it on a conscious or unconscious level. So we experience life always in almost a victim mentality, like, why did this happen? And this can lead to severe depression. It could lead to people feeling like their lives are out of control and they can't get the results that they want, or they're doomed to repeat the results that they've been getting. So I felt very compelled to do this call and call it Aligning with Success, because it was really about aligning with the laws of success as you apply them in the Niken business. And hopefully then you will start to see those fundamental shifts that result in results, bigger results, and sometimes quantum leaps in results. And I've had my opportunities to experiment with this thing time and time again. Many of you heard my children on stage in Toronto, and they themselves have had the opportunity to experiment with these things to discover that, in fact, it's not a mystery, that these things are actually pretty predictable, these laws, and that they can be applied with some degree of consistency, and results can be achieved through the discipline of that application. I mentioned to you on stage, I mentioned to you in this call previous week, and I want to just mention it again. I had set an affirmation in place to shift my consciousness around this event. And then I operated it according to it. And it's interesting because some of my helpers through the entire experience were saying things that were complete contradiction. They were saying, if we don't have enough this and if we don't do it, and you can ask them too, I would say to them, that's not going to be a problem. We're going to have more than enough. And I would just completely affirm everything that I believed would come to pass, because the law does not allow for doubt. There's no room for doubt. Doubt, in fact, is the very thing that undermines the law's fulfillment. So there's just no room for doubt. And you can't harbor that, you can't entertain that, and you just can't allow yourself to be surrounded by people who will continually fan the flames of that doubt. You just simply dismiss it as irrelevant. This is irrelevant information. This has no bearing on reality. And I say that because when you apply it to the degree that I've learned to apply it, it really becomes like a reflex. It really becomes automatic, where you just simply dismiss information that is not in alignment with what it is that you're seeking to create, the manifestation you're looking to create. Now, all of us on this call are on this call because we love Nikken, and we want the quality of life that a successful Nikken business can achieve. I'm very happy to see our friend and colleague, Royal Diamond, Igor Grundle, on the line here tonight. And I've asked Igor to join us with some regularity because I think he adds a tremendous degree of intel and understanding to our concepts here when we talk about aligning with success. And we really want more and more people to align with these ideas. So I wanted to sort of throw the line open tonight because I was sitting here thinking, what can I possibly, all day I've been thinking, what am I going to talk about tonight? What am I going to talk about tonight? What can I talk about that hasn't been talked about? Probably nothing. So it's really more about application of the law and integration of it into your lives. How do we take this buzz, this feeling that we've captured? We got like lightning in a bottle here in Toronto, and we're like, okay, so how do I take this and turn this into actual results? Well, if we understand the law, there's not a lot of work involved. It's hosting and continuing to host the frequency. I don't know if it was in Sophia's talk, but one of the kids or somebody said it, the shortest distance between current reality and the reality that you want to experience, the shortest distance is in the assumption. When you stop assuming that your current reality is reality, and you just dismiss it, and you simply adopt the reality of your imagination as the reality, then you have closed the gap in time. You've closed the gap in space on what is real and what is imagined. To the creative process, to the law, it's the same thing. Whatever you're hosting in your consciousness is what you are manifesting in the time-space reality that we experience as life. So we can't afford to host doubt. We can only entertain that which we want to create. So if you get specific and why we set goals, or why goals are even part of the conversation, is really what we're trying to do is get really clear in our mind what it is we want to create. Because how are you going to experience it in your mind, in your consciousness, if you're not living it in your mind? if you're not seeing it in your mind. So the clearer you get, the closer you get to the image, the closer you get to the feeling of that image, the closer you start to become that person. And therefore, it's like you're stepping on the gas pedal of the law of attraction. If there's such a thing as a gas pedal in the law of attraction, whether you're attracting really slow or attracting really fast, it's the degree to which you are absolutely operating in 100% faith. And what I mean by faith, and I've said this before, and I want to say it again, it's faith in the law. It's trust in the process that this law is at work. It is constantly at work. It's constantly in our life. It is manifesting our life. And so when you finally have this trust that this is true, then your job is simple. Your job becomes being faithful to the image that you host. That's it. Being faithful to the image that you host. Now, I say that it's simple. How simple is it? When you get 50,000 text messages and emails, and every time you're driving, you're seeing signs on the highway, and you're seeing TV commercials and everything trying to distract you from what you're holding in your mind, trying to get you to think about what they want you to think about. And those instances of distraction is time and energy that's being taken away from the thing that you're hosting in your mind, in your mind's eye. So caution is important. Be careful what you allow in. Hello, Dr. Caldwell.
Hello, how are you?
Fantastic. Welcome to Aligning with Success. We have a bunch of new people that's joined us on this call, and I hope it's because you realize that there's something good happening here. That this energy that we've got going, that we've got started, is like the embers of a new flame, a bastion, which, by the way, is what the award is. I don't know if you know, it's like a fivefold flame. That's what that award is. And so this is it. This is the beginning of a raging inferno where humans being more becomes not only a part of our life, but a significant voice in the world of insanity that we're living in. And Nikan is a very practical solution to that. So besides me rambling on here, I wanted to create a little bit of context for what I thought this conversation could go tonight with respect to a reminder of what Bob Proctor shared with us in Toronto, what I've been sharing with us on this call, and what many of us have discussed over the years. And that is this incredible law that seems to be, that is, the expression of the creative process, and that if we just simply became more diligent about how to apply it, we would experience a much bigger result in our life in every way. So I'm going to throw the floor open. That's kind of the context of tonight. It's a reminder of what are we doing here, and how do we better apply the energy that we're in and the concepts that we've been entertaining over the last little while. So, floor is open. Anyone feel free. This is an open call.
Hi, everybody. This is Igor in Sarasota, Florida. Boy, was the event awesome, and how refreshing it was to hear Bob. You know, something that I've been practicing for 20 years, and yet, you know, you can slip away. I thought it was good, you know, what you expressed, you know, everything that you're bombarded with every single day, every billboard, every TV commercial, every person around you is constantly throwing you off. But also, you know, how I became myself unfaithful to my own image of a better future. And the whole event, you know, brought me back to just a higher level where I was able to understand exactly that point. When you hold a thought in faith and become faithful to that image, you do not have to know how things will happen. They will just happen. Today I had a call with my German group, and I talked about a few things. You know, I said, well, you know, since I came from Toronto, I signed somebody up new on my front level, and I had a couple people out of the blue buy products. I said, well, how did you find them? I said, I didn't have to find them. They found me. Well, but you had to do something. I said, no, I'd had to do nothing but hold the image in my mind. No, that's not possible. You can't. And I said, well, exactly that. Well, let me tell you what else I did after the event. I was on the train, on the up train express to the airport, and I said, I want to sit in first class. Well, you know, I got there, and then I sat down with everybody else, and just 5 minutes before the plane, they called my name and said, please come to the front desk. Guess what? I was in first class. Not only that, you know, an old saying from Bob Proctor is, I sit in the front of the plane and the back of the car. So I said, well, I have to go one more step. So I sat in the front of the plane. I got to sit in the back of the car. On my way back from Fort Worth to the airport, you know, I was like looking for Super Shuttle and all that, you know, and I was like, oh God, I really don't want to drive through Super Shuttle. And then my brother-in-law came up to me and says, he was a big executive who retired, but he still has his executive account. And he says, you know what? I've ordered a limo for you so you can drive back to the airport. It was like, wow. So it's the little things that make up the big things. And it's the same thing, which really reminded me about my journey to Royal Diamond. I had no clue how to get there. But I held something in my mind, and I've reiterated it. I surrounded myself with people that believed in that law. I've surrounded myself with mentors that taught the law. And that's one of the things, you know, that I can recommend it to everybody. You know, it's like, when we're here because, you know, you may need us, but you're also here because you have a piece that will remind us of the same, and to always get back to that level. And I love the drawing that Bob put up, you know, with the lines, you know, and existing reality and your image and the vibrational part. Yes, we've heard it over and over again, but I sat there like 20 years ago. It's like, oh my goodness, you know. It's so easy, and you forget it so easy. So those were my little tidbits.
Thanks for that. I remember the one image where he says, and when you finally get here, you'll realize, and the image comes up, you could have been there. So yeah, I think it's important that I think it's important what you're talking about, Igor, that you see some of this happen in your life and weigh in on it, because it's like when you first, you know, want to exercise your muscle, you don't just go straight for the heavy weights. You got to build up to it, right? So sometimes when we build our confidence and knowledge of the law, it's just a matter of having a few little experiences. And then from those little experiences, you can look at that and say, okay, I'm getting it. This is for real. This is happening. I'm making this happen. Now let me start thinking about what I really want to make happen. And it does require a little bit of more patience. I think the bigger the demand to manifest a reality that's vastly different than the one you're in requires a little bit more patience, I think, because the law will it will use the means that is most efficient and effective. What was the words that he talked about? That nature tends toward efficiency. Everything is about the most efficient way that something can manifest. I'm getting a bit of feedback. I'm not sure what line is feedbacking, so I'm going to mute a couple of lines here. There, that worked. So just keep that in mind, that whatever you imagine, whatever you hold to be true for yourself, that idea will cloak itself in the most efficient manner possible, will clothe itself in the most efficient manner possible. So allow for the universe to do its thing, which is behind the scenes that we have just no comprehension of. And when I say that is because sometimes we're like trying to force a square peg into a round hole. Oh, I need this person to do this. I need that to happen. No, what you want is an outcome. The manner in which it happens will be the manner in which the universe can manifest it in the most efficient way possible. And that's the part that requires the faith, just the trust. Anyone else want to jump in? Yep, Sandra.
I have a question because I have the issue of going back and forth, up and down. Is there anything that you can suggest that I listen to daily or study to keep my mind frame there?
Well, I'll tell you, my library is pretty intense, but and it's just I've always been, since I've been in Nikan, actually, not before then, but since being in Nikan, I made a point of being a reader. And the things that Bob Proctor put me onto were things that would develop my acuity for this information. So I started reading Thomas Troward. That was like turn of the century stuff. He's kind of like the father figure in the personal development, the science of mind. And so there's books out there, the Dore lectures, for instance. But the thing that I found recently, like in the last few years, that really sort of, and I don't know if it's because I had the composite of all this material over the years that this particular work has been just like, wow, simple, elegant. It comes from the paradigm of a theological background, so it helps put the pieces of the puzzle together. So I thought it's brilliant material, and it's by Neville. So I read Neville quite a bit, and the book that Bob Proctor held up on stage was this one here, The Power of Awareness. It seems like all the masters have discovered this book recently. I think it was the fellow who had passed away just recently, or about a year or so ago, personal development fellow, author, lecturer.
Wayne Dyer.
Wayne Dyer, thank you. Wayne Dyer, his last book was essentially his version of this book. He had this book in his hand and the I Am Lectures, which is the other book that I read from quite often. Where do I have it? It's probably in my briefcase. And so I tend to read books that, like this, like Neville, Power of Awareness. In fact, before I speak, I like to grab this book and just start reading, because I feel a shift in my frequency instantly. When I start reading this material, I feel it within myself. Some of you guys have some favorite authors. I love the one of the books that I remember really enjoying reading was the, I'm trying to remember this author because he's a prolific author. He wrote Sermon on the Mount. My goodness. Anyway, if it'll come to me, it's probably sitting here on my desk if I thumb through this while one of you guys are chatting away. Here's the book by Thomas Troward, and here's a book by Emmett Fox. Here it is, Sermon on the Mount. See how it works? Power of Now. Igor was just holding up Power of Now. If you've never read Power of Now, he's holding up Eye of the Eye. There's like 8 or 10 books in that series. The first one, Power versus Force, that was a monumental book for me. That was one of the books that really was like breakthrough in terms of my understanding that not all consciousness is distributed equally on the planet. So not everybody is equal. Everybody is equal in potential, but not everybody is equal in consciousness. And when you start to get that through your head, you realize, okay, that's why there's something for everybody. Birds of a feather flock together. Everybody's operating at a level of consciousness, just like Bob showed all those scales of consciousness. They're all connected, but people tend to be at a certain frequency. And the thing that we can do is shift our frequency. That's the one thing that we can do that an animal can't do, that a tree can't do. It's what makes humans superior species, the great God's greatest creation, only because we're able to alter our frequency. And how we do that is with the thoughts that we harbor and the feelings that we allow those thoughts to conjure up within us. So that's some of the stuff that I like to read. The other thing I would suggest you do is audios. Sometimes reading is not practical. For instance, when you're driving, a lot of what I'm talking about, Napoleon Hill, you can read Think and Grow Rich, or listen to Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. My kids are now doing audio files because they like to listen to stuff while they study and do their homework. I don't know how they do that. I can't possibly do that, but they can. Somehow they manage to do 2 things at once. So to have audio going in your car, especially when you're driving around. So often what people do in the cars, they check out, they just sort of tune out. And that's In fact, what's really interesting about being in a car when you tune out, this is when you are most susceptible to being influenced by other people's ideas and all of the signs that you're driving past. Because what you do is you open up your unconscious mind, your subconscious mind. There's no faculty of reason that's filtering the information. It goes straight into the subconscious. So that's a dangerous place to be when you're sitting there passively watching TV or passively. Be aware. Joe Dispenza's work that Maggie McKee is referring to, that's very good work. There's no shortage of incredible information. Just find something that gets your, Mach 2, that's a great book, by the way. Mach 2 is here. Mach 2 with Your Hair on Fire. This is a book by Richard Brooke. And Richard studied this material. So here's a network marketer like me who studied this information and integrated it into his life and his teaching. And I think this book is a really good book because it's an encapsulation of these ideas. So it's not only a good book for you to have, study, but it's a good book for you to use in your educational material for when you're building a team. Like to have your team on material, on a reading list of some kind, helps to build the team, helps to fortify the team, helps to create a unified consciousness, which is really important in teamwork, helps to get people aligned with some information that's relevant. Again, if we understand that NECAN is an incredible vehicle, it's of no value, of no use, if people are not applying it. And the application is first and foremost the paradigm shift. You've got to get a paradigm shift going if you're going to really help people make a big difference in their life. You just can't hand them the vehicle. They've got to learn how to drive it, and that's that paradigm shift that has to happen. So the development of people's mind becomes a high priority when you're building an organization. Barb Satterwhite.
Mike, I wanted to tell you, I found a book. It was written in 1919. I found it at a thing I was volunteering at, and it was written, the version I found was 1956 by Ernest Holmes.
That's it. That's the author I was looking for, Ernest Holmes.
Creative Mind and Success. So I picked this little book up, written, this version was 1956, and I'm looking at it, and I didn't do much with it, and then I looked at it over the years, and I went, man, gosh, this is all people need to do, is read something like this. And I thought, oh, it's probably not even available. It was written 100 years ago. Sure enough, you can get it for $3.50 on Amazon, a paperback, Creative Mind and Success. And I love that little book.
And he is an amazing writer. The way he writes is very, I don't know how to describe it other than it's very palatable, very smooth, very easy to follow, just really high vibration stuff. Science of Mind, Ernest Holmes. So he was another guy that I read a lot of, Ernest Holmes. I really enjoyed the way he structures his thoughts.
And he has the Science of the Mind have I used to have a subscription to it, and I don't even renew the subscription. I just keep reading these little excerpts, and I love it. So then I found this year he has a 365-day, where each day there's something.
Yes.
So I find that simple, easy, but that Creative Mind and Success is just like, duh. And this was 100 years ago that he wrote it.
And I think that to not pay heed to this discussion, to what we're talking about here, to not integrate this into your daily routine is a big mistake, because we will create our reality, and it will be a function of what thoughts you're thinking and how you're filtering thoughts. It's not just what you're thinking, but it's how you're interpreting what you're thinking. So to have the lens of these incredible works go into your consciousness, where you start to screen information in a very different way, that changes everything. It's like putting on a set of glasses, and now you're seeing through the lens of those glasses. You're going to see opportunities that you didn't see before. You're going to meet people only because you're on a frequency that you would not have met. That's just what happens. And you might chalk it up to coincidence or whatever. You guys are smarter than that. You know that it's not coincidence. It's simply the law at work. Most other people who don't know would call that coincidence. But we need to be more direct about this, more on top of this, that this is actually the law, and we are conscious creators. The goal of this call, the goal of working with you. I know you can get other information from elsewhere about how to build your unique end business and how to build a network marketing business. I don't know that you're getting this information elsewhere, but I made a point that this would be what I would focus on because I feel it is the thing that has made the most of an impact for me and my family. I've seen it in examples like Igor throughout the years, and many of us who had access to Bob on a regular basis, and the impact that that information, I mean, Bob's an amazing guy, and he can articulate this information in a way that's so powerful, but at the same time, if you're not into it, you're just not going to pick it up. But if you really appreciate the value of the information, regardless of where it comes from, and start to integrate it, you're going to experience the same effect.
Mm-hmm. You know, one of the things that after I read that little book, I thought, you know what? You can train people all you want. You can train them about the products. You can train them. It's not there. It's all here, and it's all in what those whole laws are. And until people get that, it's like you're wasting your time. I mean, it's so frustrating at one point because we're going about it backwards. We're trying to teach everybody all the things you need to do, but if they can't imagine and have the faith and have the goal and or the desire, then it's all for naught.
You know, I find that the words will come through you when you're in a certain way of thinking or your certain positive nature. The words will come through you. You like people used to always say, "What do you see in this situation? What do you see in this situation? What do you see in this situation?" I'm like, I could write 1,000 scripts because every situation is different. And I don't know what I'm going to say until I'm in the situation. But if I'm in the right frame of mind, it will come out of me because the content, I've situated myself in the right context, and then the words come out. So when you're holding that context, then the words will come out. I just want to say something to Dr. Melanie Caldwell. I'm so appreciative of the fact that you came to Toronto and did your talk. I was blown away by your talk when we did that first video conference at my father's house over a year ago. And then I saw you live again in Salt Lake City, and you brought some more information to the surface, which really is alarming, but at the same time, things we need to know. And the fact that your commitment to this work, so anything I can do to help you grow your unique end business, you just call on me, all right?
I will. Thank you.
So, anyone else want to share a little bit? And by the way, Barb, congratulations. I was watching your video of the video clip of you receiving the award all day today as we were doing the final edits. So,
I need to see it.
That's going to be out tomorrow. I'm going to have that video out tomorrow. And I just want to remind you, I want to have an interview of all the winners on a call next week, preferably on this call. I'm doing an interview tomorrow night of the Latinos who won on the Hispanic call. Anyone else want to jump in?
I'd like to offer a book.
Yes, go ahead.
And say.
Wait. There's two voices here. Somebody's wanting to offer a book. Go ahead.
Okay, this is Mary Mayer.
Okay, Mary.
Hey there. The book that I just heard an interview from the author yesterday from one of my favorite EFT practitioners, was interviewing him, and his name is James Clear, and he wrote a book called Atomic Habits about doing micro changes for getting out of, he helps you just look at the science of what's happening with the tendency to stay where you are versus stepping into something new. And he was a very fascinating fellow. And also Brad Yates, the EFT practitioner, is somebody I've been following for a lot of years. And he has an entire EFT program devoted to network marketing and using EFT techniques focused around that. He has.
Can you give us what the abbreviation EFT stands for?
Sure, it's emotional freedom techniques.
Okay.
That's cool. the meridian tapping work.
Oh yeah, tapping. Okay, cool. Which, by the way, is extremely effective because at the end of the day, what causes us to behave in the way we do without thinking is all the habits that we formed since we were born. Mm-hmm. And so getting rid of some of that stuff is not a bad idea. Clearing it out.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for that, Mary.
You're welcome.
Sandra, you were going to say something?
Yes. I think it might have been my very first or second meeting that I went to right after I came into Niken. And you taught then how what's in the subconscious will take over and carry you forward, backwards, or sideways, without you recognizing what's going on. When there's a gap and you have to move quickly, whatever's in the subconscious will direct you. And I remember you saying that, and I said, boy, this sounds like some stuff I had in school. However, this time it was practical and it was being applied for something that I was interested in. So it made more sense rather than remembering it because some professor was going to ask me whatever. And so as I've continued in Niken, I have had such appreciation for those original crystals that you dropped. And my concern is, as we share it with newer people, we might say it in such a casual way that they don't catch the significance of it. And that's what I hear you saying now again. The reading, the listening to the videos, and the tapes is important because it's building a substrate that we operate on without knowing it.
Yes.
It's crucial. And so I have a harder time when people are talking trash because they're full of trash, but they don't know it. So we have to be patient, I guess, but we need to continue to do what I have seen you do. And I got it first from you. And I just want to say another shout out and thank you for so boldly saying what is in your mind you're not even aware of. And it's conducting and ordering your steps. So I just remember you up on that stage just talking. I'm thinking, I left the classroom. I don't want to be in the classroom. But what you said was applicable to what I do want, which is success, not just in Niken, but to help people. I want to glorify God by helping them know their temples are special and they can take better care of it. So it's a shout out to you for preaching this way back when, and it's to tell all of us what's not on your mind, but what's down in there makes such a difference. So if you're not reading, if you're not meditating, if you're not gravitating towards thoughts that restructure your substrate, that's where it is.
That's the
Amen.
PhD psychology professor for the next health professional panel. So that's also the beauty of what we have is all this talent. So much.
I don't know if you, thanks, Madeline. I don't know how many of you picked up on this part of my daughter's talk, because she mentioned this, and I've been really impressed with her application of this. And this is gratitude statements. Both the girls wake up, especially the girls wake up. Michael's still at a point where he's still a little boy and kind of doing his thing, but the girls are pretty diligent about this. They wake up and they do gratitude statements. Now, everything I've learned about this is gratitude is the frequency. If there was a frequency of the creator, it's the frequency of gratitude, because it is the frequency of the creative process when it's at its height. So when you are in a state of grace or in a state of gratitude, then there is nothing but gratitude. There's no doubt. There's no, like, the feelings that you are harboring in the vibrational frequency of gratitude is effortless. It's like everything flows through you. So whatever it is that you're imagining, if you're imagining it in a state of gratitude, if you're being grateful for it, ask as though you have received and you shall receive, which means you would come to that situation with grace, with gratitude. How would you ask for something that you've already received?
So that's the love and the flow. And that was the feeling that everybody's buzzing about, Michael. So it was the hugs that were everywhere and the joy that was everywhere. So grace and gratitude can only come from the heart and from love and serving, the service towards others. The one couple that was here on Saturday were so excited to see their picture. He's been in USANA for I don't know how many years. And the comment that he made was the intermingling. Actually spoke to you, Igor. He referenced that. And being able to just be humans being more with one another and really be interactive. Now, some of that was the size, and Ben talked about the size of the meeting, but for where we are in the coming back up out of the valley and the small group of like-minded people, that is really significant and really important. And that is very duplicatable too, because that is exactly what you're talking about. And that for me was so very different. And it's really what I remember feeling. I think at the first Team Diamond meeting that I went to in Atlanta, that was huge, 10,000 people, right before the first Japan meeting, both in '98, where I felt this, and I felt it again.
And this is where it starts, right? It's the feeling. And so how do we take this and actually put it to work? We have to recreate it in our own environment. We have to recreate it, which means, and I don't even know if it's a matter of recreating it. If spirit is always for expression and fuller expansion, or spirit is always for expansion and fuller expression. Sorry, the opposite of that. Spirit is always for expansion and fuller expression, kind of like that award, expansion and fuller expression. So if that's the nature of that which I am, spirit, if that is our nature to be expanding and fuller expressing, then we just got to let that happen. We just got to keep the valve open and allow that to happen in our personal lives, wherever we are at. And again, just simply wash out or guard out all those things that are trying to get to you, trying to draw your interests, trying to take away from your positivity. And what will start to flow to you is not just through you, but to you, is everything that's in harmony with that. Now, how many of you would like to have a large organization? Yeah, but would you not like to have a large organization of people who are in harmony with what we're talking about? Like, I don't want to attract an army of people who are constantly taking my energy and draining me of life and lifeblood because I want to draw people to me who are helping us be more creative and helping to be a better expression and expansion of what we're doing here. And that depends on me staying in this frequency. Because if I drop down here, that's what I start to attract. And then I'm stuck with that. So we want to stay up here. We want to springboard from the Toronto event. And the reason why I've been diligent about giving you more, the pictures, the video, why? Because I want you to stay connected to this energy. Because there's something magical that happened, and it's real, it's palatable, and we need to stay connected. It's just like reading. You got to stay in the vibe if you want to, because there's a lot that's trying to bring you down. And that's the reality. The reality is there's more people out there that are down than there are people that are up. This would be easy if we're all in heaven. But we're creating our own heaven, right?
That's the trajectory. And Mike, if you look at I'll make one quick comment. The numbers of people on tonight, there's been a core group that's been here. That core group was there. And that core group brought other people there. And that's what is happening. That's where you want to be. You want to be where that energy is. So we're here. And so that will happen. And it is already. So thank you so much. And I've said that so many times over these past 3 years already, these Monday nights, that clinical practicum is so important, that interaction, so that we keep those habits moving on that trajectory, that support group. Mastermind.
I want to hold this up for a second. This little booklet that was put together to, put on the table for us to see and for us to aspire what's available, what Niken's put on the table for us to have. And I want you to start imagining this as yours. You own this. This is yours. This is not Niken's. This is yours. So own this. All of it. Be it all. Why not? Why would you deny yourself any of this? Why would you deny anybody you sponsor in the business any of this? And we think that we have to earn it. No, we don't. This is how it works. we already own it. Therefore, we don't have to earn it.
Claim it.
We claim it.
Right.
And then the manifestation of it is simply the consequence of the law. And yes, when you look back, you'll say, oh, I did this and I did this and I met this person, I met that person. You'll have a history of how that transpired. But none of that would have happened had you not made the decision to own it in the first place. Mm-hmm. And if you remember what Bob talked about is that shift in frequency begins with a decision. It begins with a decision. And then he made the example of a person who, doesn't buy a house because they don't have the money. What do you need the money for? You haven't made a decision to buy the house, right? You have to make the decision. That precedes the manifestation, hands down every time. So the decision becomes part of our conscious creative effort. It takes a conscious effort to make a decision, which means making a choice. And when you got 50 million choices, it's hard to make a choice. I don't know how women do it. Personally, I'm a hunter, not a shopper. You go to a mall, especially if you go with my daughters, and they got to go to every store in the mall before they decide what they want to get, which was probably the first thing they saw in the first store. So it's so confusing, but it's easier when there's limited choice. Well, Lincoln's given us a schedule and they said, okay, here, we got this on the table for you. Choose, pick something. There's lots here to choose from. Pick something, go for it, own it.
Mike, it's Michelle.
Hi, Michelle.
When you were talking about the gratitude statements, these are so incredibly powerful. Because when I first started to write out my gratitude statements, I had quite a long list. And as I'm doing it night after night after night, and I would sleep on mine. I'd put it under my pillow and sleep on it. What I was discovering is there was a lot of repetition and a lot of garbage there. And as I was fine-tuning it, I absolutely discovered what I want. What I want. And a lot of people struggle with this. What is it that you want? People can't make a decision if they don't know what they want.
That's true. That's so true. And that's probably why they don't make a decision, because they don't even know what they want. So again, this is part of being a conscious creator. Now, it's okay to want a lot of things. Start with something and then move on, and that's it. Just start with something that you feel is exciting enough. I think you talked about it. You have to be confident enough that you think you can learn, but not overly confident where you think you have nothing to learn. So they're sort of in that middle ground where you have to be excited enough where you think it's something worth having, but not too much, because then you might think it's not possible, not attainable. So what's that sweet zone for you? Most people can imagine doubling their income. They can't imagine more than that. It's very difficult to take a situation of a normal human being and say, oh, you're going to make 3, 4, 5 times what you're making. It's just not something that they can absorb at this moment. Now, when they double their income, again, they'll see further down the road. So let's start with something that is exciting enough and to some degree believable enough where its manifestation, looking in the rearview mirror, will have given you so much altitude that you now have a new platform to stand on, a new perspective to share, and something of greater value. All in all, what we are doing is increasing our value. We're increasing our value. We become more difficult to replace. And as you do that, you become more valuable in society. We're coming up on the end of our call. Any last comments, anyone?
I want to bring something simple up that was very important to me at the beginning when I started. Oftentimes we look at, things that you need to do in the business, and also the things that we heard from Bob, and it was very obscure for me at the beginning. One of the things that really helped me was, when it comes to, for example, when I looked at the compensation plan, I always went like, oh, I'll go to the next level. I didn't understand that it's okay to look at Royal Diamond as kind of where you're going to. But here's the point that took me quite a while to get to, and it was the thing. Well, sometimes we talk about, oh, the things that you want to have, and I got to do, right? But what I didn't understand, what became, like after about 3 years, so blatantly clear, was that I had to be before I did, before I had, before I could have things. And the being was the hardest part for me. I mean, what is it that I am going to be as a Royal Diamond? I'm not going to be Mike DiMuccio or Dave Johnson or Dennis Williams. I had to define who I was going to be. And that I had to hold for many years until I became that. And I think that was the most important thing. It's like what you said, Michelle, you know, there's certain things that we repeat in our mind and we listen to whatever comes within us out, that where we are holding ourselves back. And that's what I had to fight the most, was my own inner teachers, my own inner voices that were holding me back. Not so much the outer voices. I mean, I've conquered them, but then it was the inner voices. And that maybe I can send you off with, you know, let it become in your heart and your mind to understand the to be, then to do, and then to have. And that it's working on that. And that's a thing that you work on almost every moment. It's how do you stay in that frequency? Catch yourself, remind yourself. Like Michelle said, I had to sleep on it. You have to have it close to you, because it is such an incredible override that you have to create to get there, to get to your true higher self again. That has been buried because of whoever, the parents, the society, the peers, whatever. That is what you're fighting about. And you have permission to become the best person that you are, to be that best person that you are, because we have equally, every one of us has 100% talent. And move in that direction, and then things will become easy.
Really good
Peter,
stuff.
could I also add that every single one of us are worthy of everything that is possible?
Well, and so that sort of speaks to the point that I was trying to make on my closing on the Saturday event, which was, if I understand who I am, if we help people overcome their identity crisis, they think they are who they think they are, and they rarely ever spend any time with who they actually are, which is a created being, one in nature with the creator of all beings. If we spend a little bit of time with acknowledgement of that truth, then how can you look at yourself and think less of yourself? You would realize that it's you thinking that, it's not the truth. Mm-hmm. And nobody wants to host a lie, so why would we be hosting a lie for very long when we realize this is just not the truth? The truth is, I am who I am what I am that I am. I'm divine. And I'm not what I think I am 99% of the time, or what anybody else thinks I am 90% of the time. So why do we spend any time worrying about what they think I am? So if we can just remind ourselves of that, even if you did it daily, if that was one of your gratitude statements, was, I am so grateful that I am who I am. If that was all it took for you to just keep the reminder, because when you operate from that truth, then you don't see yourself as less than. You don't see yourself as a victim. You recognize, I'm a creator. I'm creating this, so let me be functional in my creativity. Let me be purposeful in my creativity. Let me create the life that I want. Let me create the circumstances that I want to experience. And no, it's a lawful process. And I love what Bob said. The only reason you need to, you just got to want it. You don't have to have a reason to want it. You don't have to have an excuse to want it. You just got to want it. Good enough for me. I used to run around in my early days, Anika, thinking, what would Bob do in a situation like this? What would Bob say in a situation like this? What would Bob think about a situation like this? And I used to actually do that. I would put myself in his shoes And I would start to experience his thoughts in my head, and I know exactly what he would say. And then I would start to say those things. And guess what I started to experience? The same results that he was experiencing, the same reactions that he would experience, which gave me a sense of confidence in knowing. So sometimes you need to be, maybe you need to be mentored. Not maybe, but likely. Most great people have been coached and mentored by somebody who they have admired and respected. So, and you don't have to know that person. You can just get into their mind and say to yourself, what would they do in this situation? What would they say about this? Look at what you're looking at in the mirror. What do you think they would say to you if they were talking to you right now? Like, if you almost have to get outside of yourself to really get inside of yourself. So these are the challenges, but these are the things that make this worth doing. And like I said, there's other places to go for information and knowledge about network marketing and network marketing business in terms of tools and techniques. But I feel strongly that all the best techniques and all the best tools in the world in the hands of someone who is derelict in their purpose, in their identity, in their conviction, in their passion, in their sense of self and self-worth is just not going to cut it. You want to attract an organization of people who are like you, like-minded, spirited, passionate, and feel up to the challenge. And that means we need to be that first person. We need to be that person ourselves and then be the mirror of that around us. Mm-hmm. And on that note, guys, I'm going to say thank you for joining us tonight. We'll see you next week, and we'll have some interviews of our Humans Being More Award winners, hopefully with us on next week's call.
Thank you.
Tomorrow's call, it'll be English-Spanish translation, so we'll have both.
Good.
Have a great night. Thank you. Thanks everyone for contributing.